Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
The following statement is really, really true for all of us. Sometimes the weird thoughts in my head get really bored and they go for a stroll out through my mouth. This is never a good thing. Good morning. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Have a great day. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Western Waste Services, always at your disposal, getting rid of your garbage. They're locally owned and operated. Call them today at 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, here we go. Gina, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm hungry. Imagine that.
Now there is a headline worthy of being put on the news. I mean, she's so skinny she could take a bath in a shotgun barrel, and this girl can eat like she has tapeworms galore. I've never seen anybody down food like you.
Well, when I get hungry, and so I've got a banana and I've got some yogurt.
Yeah, but I know they ought to nickname you Hoover because you're like a vacuum cleaner when it comes to food.
Actually, that used to be my brother's nickname growing up. He was seriously a Hoover. We actually told him he had a hollow leg.
You're kidding me.
And you eat a lot.
You're so scrawny.
I know. I don't know. High metabolism, babe.
Jason Kennedy.
Yes.
Jason Kennedy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Hey, I have got so many different stories this morning, and we've got birthdays and anniversaries, and one birthday that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes I think will absolutely surprise you.
You think?
Yeah, because I'm going to give you a little clue. She is very, very famous, and I certainly did not know that she was this old. Okay?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Do we have a pledger?
We have Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good. Rotten, go ahead, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow! They did it in tandem. And I'll tell you, I can see Helen standing there with her little orchestration baton saying, "Okay, Dal, on the downbeat, here we go. Good job."
Okay.
All right, God bless you, man. Thank you. Helen, good job. All right, thank you.
God bless everybody.
Thank you, Dal. All right, God bless. Thank you. Those are 2 sweet people right there. Appreciate them. Hey, we got to get to the weather. And the weather, of course, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Holy cow, all your carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, refurbished furniture, everything you need to really decorate your home. And by the way, we're only 2 weeks away from Valentine's Day, so they've got all the lovey-dovey decorations right there at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-6945. Look for the blue doors, okay? Right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Yeah, clouds and rain for today and also for tonight. Gonna take a little break tomorrow. It'll be cloudy, becoming mostly sunny. Then you're gonna go right back into what you left off. So we've got a mixed bag of weather all this week. Temperatures consistently gonna be in the low 50s all the way through the weekend. 30s for the overnight low. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael Rogers, Weather.com. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. They are open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 10 to 4 at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Hey, real quick, don't forget, Merv May and the rest of the crew, Kay Draghi, Lance Udy, all of them at Burley Livestock Sale Yard, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-9411. Sale day is Thursday. Sale time is 10 o'clock. Get your consignments all ready to go. Ripping good sale that always works for you. For you. Burley Livestock Sale Yard. You bet, 1100 Occidental Avenue in Burley. Sale day this Thursday at 10 a.m. Okay? We got some birthdays, and I want to get to that real quick, and some anniversaries. First of all, on our birthday, we want to say happy birthday to Donna Perkins, and her birthday is today. Happy birthday to you. And yesterday, I missed this, and it's my fault. I forgot, she's going to play the music in the background. Go ahead, Gina, thank you. And that's for Donna. Happy birthday. And we'll also incorporate a happy anniversary to Janelle and Bruce Ford. They celebrated their anniversary yesterday. I don't know how many years, but never had a fight. So congratulations to them and Donna. Now, Gina, this is where you come in.
Okay.
Do you remember the movie Chevy Chase Vacation Movies when they went to Wally World?
The National Lampoon series. You bet.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you remember some of the movie had to be for TV, kind of censored and edited, but do you remember the actress's name that played the blonde bombshell in the convertible? No. No, you're jumping ahead here.
Wasn't that was Cheryl Brinkley? That was Christy Brinkley.
Christy Brinkley played the blonde bombshell in the sports car.
Yeah. And who's she like? I want to say she's like 62 now.
No, you missed it by a year. She is 61 yesterday.
Wow. And honestly, she still looks as hot today as she did back when she was in her prime. She is one fantabulous lady.
Let me just say this, if I may, that in the movie, which was edited for general television, but I saw it the first time in real time, when she, how do I say this without causing concern with parents with children, when she had a tendency to get real warm and want to remove certain items and jumped in the pool and Chevy Chase followed her, it's hard to imagine that she is now 61.
She still looks fantastic.
Yeah. Christy Brinkley.
I hope that I can look that good when I'm her age.
You know, one of these days, I mean, 37 cheeseburgers and 45 bags of chips and fries and Coca-Colas and everything, it's going to catch up with somebody.
I know. And I'm not looking forward to the day when it does finally catch up with me, but it will.
I never will forget when I had the food delivered to you one morning. Chicken fried steak and all that I had delivered to you. And the person that delivered, when they walked out the door, they said they heard like a ravenous dog just going after that food.
It's true. Watch out when I start to eat, man, because food is going to be flying.
Anyhow, I got to pay some bills. I'm just going to put a sign on the door that says, beware of woman eating. All right, Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Oh, my goodness sakes, are they busy? Oh, my goodness sakes, they are the best cleaners in the universe. I mean it. Whatever you take in that's all stained and rumply-crumply, by golly, it'll come back to you looking brand spanking new. Kevin and Cindy at Darrow's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Also, real quick, SafeLink Internet. You can say no to the winter blues with high-speed wireless internet. Get the first month free. Yeah, free and free installation. What is he talking about? And then it's only $24.95 a month. Oh, my goodness. No contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data. Call them at 677-8000. Tell them Zeb sent you. SafeLink Internet. Absolutely the best. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Like to hear from you. This is really, honestly, a pitiful shame. It is a shame. It just is sad. Johnny Manziel. Now, you know who I'm talking about. Johnny Manziel, former collegiate outstanding quarterback, won the Heisman Trophy, had all the accolades of going into the pros, drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and then thunk, his drinking problem got the best of him. This kid, absolutely, somebody should have backed him up against the wall and poked their finger in his face and said, Johnny, you have a gift. Johnny, the Cleveland Browns are going to pay you a ton of money to be the quarterback of their football team. Johnny, clean up your act. He didn't do it. And like a lot of prima donna athletes were the problem, he absolutely is like the south end of a horse headed north. No brains to think things through and understand what an opportunity he has just blown. Now, he's in rehab. He's got to go to rehab. And I just wonder, honestly, I wonder if the Browns will terminate his contract. And I also wonder if his days as a potential NFL quarterback are over. Because this kid, with all of his drinking and his partying and his problems, he's got a sign around his neck that spells Trouble. Trouble. And I honestly think Johnny Manziel is history. Ramsey Heating and Electric. Oh, my goodness sakes, at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. You can call that number, and they'll have all your electrical needs waiting for you on the counter, including your quality air filters for your furnace. Yeah, nothing worse than getting out of bed in the morning with your toesies on that cold floor, and the furnace is just, you want it? You're not going to get it from me. Well, make sure that you treat your furnace very nicely and provide quality air filters from Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Oh, and by the way, it's lovey-dovey time. Yeah, put your arm around your lovey-dovey. It's Valentine's Day coming up. And they're having a lovebird sale over at Valleywide Home and Ranch. Now, they're not selling any birds. No, they're not selling any birds. But they've got all the clothing and the jewelry and the belts and the Western boots 25% off. Oh, love is in the air. And you can register for prizes that are going to be given away. You might receive a romantic night stay in the honeymoon suite at the Best Western, plus desserts from Perkins and $50 gift card to the Upper Crust Grill. Oh, get in to Valleywide Home and Ranch and register for the Lovebird sale. Yeah, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Sean, Mandy, the whole crew at Valleywide Home and Ranch. I can just see great big old tough Dave Zanino going in there, and I want to register for the Lovebird sale. There you go. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. As you know, I am not a big fan of Bill O'Reilly on the O'Reilly Factor. Now, that's not to say that he is not at times right spot on. I just personally don't like his attitude. I don't like his extreme arrogancy. I don't like the way he treats his guests, basically. But last night, I will say this, I will give him his due. He was spot on regarding Muslim terrorism. Not to pull punches, not to remove any of the words, whether it's Al-Qaeda, whether it's ISIS, whether it's Boko Haram. Muslim terrorists We need now, as he said last night, all countries of the world, whether it's Japan, whether it's Germany, whether it's France, whether it's Great Britain, whether it's Australia, whether it's us, to form a scourge campaign against terrorism. And I really do agree with this concept that everybody in the world is right now held liable. Japan's had their problems. Great Britain has had their problems. Australia has had terrorist events. Japan, now with the beheading of 2 of their citizens. Us, of course. The world needs to unite. And to some of the people out there, the people that are very, very liberal and think we can all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, this scourge has to take place. We must, and we, the entirety of the world, we must absolutely obliterate them. You lovey-doveys out in the audience need to realize the world is not Alice in Wonderland anymore. And there are people out there that want what we have, but they don't want to work for it, and they want to diminish it or take it by any means necessary. And so Muslim terrorism, radical Islam, must be defeated. And I don't mean just put your hands up and wave a white flag. It must be diminished. It must be absolutely put away. And we can't wait any longer. I watched again last night a couple of the network broadcasts, and the variance between the broadcast networks is absolutely obscene, most of which will not call a spade a spade. They won't call black, black, white, white, whatever. But when they saw the composite again of the 7 people beheaded, and the absolute atrocities that ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. are committing, and what happened with Boko Haram, and the mass slaughter of human beings. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a cancer. This is a cancer that is killing at a rapid rate, trying to take over control of the world. And they are a cancer that must be stopped and obliterated. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Barry Equipment and Rental. Oh, they are going to be over at Agra Action. That starts in a couple of days, by the way. And while they're at Agra Action, with the purchase of every Doosan loader, and all those are big dudes that can get the job done for you, they will throw in a Bobcat UTV. Wow. Great financing and lease options. I talked to Eli, the old Packer backer, the other day, and man, they're excited, waiting for you to come on over and talk to them at Agra Action. They've got the equipment for any job to do it right. 3 locations: Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln in Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. You be sure and see them at CSI's Expo Center for Agra Action. Barry Equipment and Rental. Really, really good folks. Oh, Gina said she was hungry earlier. How'd you like to turn her loose on a breakfast menu? I'll tell you what, she'd make a dent in it. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And I'll tell you what, their breakfast menu, I love breakfast. My favorite meal of the day, absolutely. And they've got all the items on that breakfast menu are unbelievably delicious. I mean, I had that prime rib omelet. Oh, that is phenomenal. And don't forget, we're over there once a month at least for Zeb's Lunch Bunch. Try to stop in as much as I can. You can stop in any day you want, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Great food, fantastic service at 611 Overland in Burley, Denny's Restaurant, and the new location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Denny's, great place to eat. All right, good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
My friend.
You know, last night you talking about O'Reilly. He got my dander up. They were talking about Baby Bush, him and Rove, and they were talking about he did things in high school and all this, and I'm not disputing the fact that you do things that are stupid and that when you're in high school. But the way Rove and he were doing, O'Reilly was doing, they were smoothing it over, and it was so obvious that they were really covering for him, and it made me angry because what O'Reilly said, he says, I don't think it really matters, kids do things like that, and it doesn't really matter, I don't think, if a president did things like that.
Yeah.
In other words, what he's saying is, young people, you can do anything you want right now. It doesn't matter.
I got the same impression last night, Dwayne, and I'm just going to state this, state the obvious, and then I got to go to a hard break at the bottom of the hour, and I want to get your comment. Karl Rove is from the old school. Karl Rove is from the McCainish, the McConnells, and the Boehner type Republicans, the Jeb Bush Republicans. Karl Rove does not want the new anarchy to take place with the new Republicans coming in, whether it's Scott Walker or whomever. And I get a little sick and tired of him being kind of the Solomon for the Republican Party, because I don't think he is. Does that make any sense?
I agree, fully I agree. And anybody outside of that little clique they got there, and it seems like Fox News is helping the issue. They're right in there pitching.
Well, let's be fair and honest here, because there are many, many commentators that are very gung-ho on Fox regarding the young blood. Laura Ingraham, Hannity, and others want to see the Scott Walkers and everything improve. But you'll notice there was a comment made last night, Dwayne, in their conversation between O'Reilly and Rove, and O'Reilly said, well, yeah, Scott Walker's in the lead after this poll in Iowa, but that'll probably be short-lived because he's peaking too soon. Do you remember him saying that?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
And the thing that really irritated me about that is a week ago, Dwayne, who was on top of the poll? Go ahead and tell me.
Bush.
That's right. And where is he now? He slipped down to number 5 on the hit parade. And so I'm a little sick and tired of this protection for the old Republican Guard.
Right, and it was so obvious. And what makes me wonder about these people is the whole thing is they don't give a hoot about the country. All they're concentrating is that party. Get that party, and once that party is up there, they know who's going to be promoted and who's going to get this job. And
well, I tell you what, I want to see the concept of the parties basically pushed into the background, into the shadows, and I want to find out about the man. I want to find out about the policies. I want to find out what they're going to do for Dwayne and Zeb and everybody else. I am sick and tired of party affiliation as far as that being in the limelight. Oh, we got to protect the party. You don't have to protect the doggone party. Look at what happened with the Democrats with the protection of their party. Look at the absolutely heinous criminal activities that are going on with liberalism because they protected the party.
That's correct. And they have most of them have already, I'll bet you right now, they've already got plans if one of them gets in there.
Could be.
One of the hierarchy.
I got to run, Dwayne, but you brought up an excellent point, and I got to tell you, you made me a little bit more than mad this morning because I saw that, and I was furious last night. Thank you very much.
That's when you're at your best, Zeb.
Okay, God bless you, man. Thanks. Oh, we got to listen to our friends at Capital Press with the Ag Minute, and it is brought to you by our dear friends at Pacific Steel and Recycling. Man, they are really good. They got drive-through recycling, pickup service, and also roll-off containers. Superior custom service. They really care. And also they carry trailer parts too. I'm telling you, they're great at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. Number to remember and call, 678-2321. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAg.com.
President Barack Obama wants to create a new government agency dedicated to keeping the nation's food safe. The proposal in the president's budget released Monday comes after outbreaks of illness linked to chicken, eggs, peanuts, and cantaloupe in recent years. More than a dozen federal agencies oversee food safety. Consumer advocates have long called for bringing those functions together in a single home. The budget proposes consolidating the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service and all of FDA's food safety oversight into one new agency within the Department of Health and Human Services. It also would coordinate with state and local health departments, a job handled by the Center of Disease Control.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
Thank you very much. Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'll appreciate your call. And quickly, I want to remind everybody about Scow's CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts. My goodness, 3 locations serving you. Scow's CarQuest in Rupert, 323 East 8th Street, Highway 25. CarQuest of Burley, 518 Overland in Burley, and the Big Truck Center at exit 211 I-84. Oh my, serving you. Hey, by the way, if you've got a line of trucks, a fleet of trucks, don't forget to sign up today for the Fleet Filter Survey. You know what that means. A great way to save time when something breaks down this spring. You call Scow's right now and find out about the survey. And don't forget they're teamed up with Baldwin Filters, the best heavy-duty filters in the industry. You betcha. Every detail matters at Scow's CarQuest Centers. You call them today. Absolutely. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got to ask you this question. You pay your taxes. I pay my taxes. We have to. We will have the IRS probably standing behind us with handcuffs and looking at us and saying, well, if we don't arrest you, we're sure going to make it miserable for you with the severe interest penalties and everything else. We're going to get you. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I want to finish my thought here real quick. Well, then how can the likes of the biggest sleaze that has ever been in Washington, D.C., Al Sharpton, get away with what he is getting away with? He is over $5 million in back taxes. Ain't paid nothing. And he's walking the streets just as happy as a bird. Hold on. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. You know, look at our former Secretary of the Treasury, you know. He was tax evader, too, and walked the streets and never prosecuted. But I got a more serious subject to talk about for just a second. I know you don't want to switch subjects, but I haven't had a chance to really... Well,
hurry, Adrian, hurry, because I want to get back to what I was talking about. Go ahead real fast.
Okay. On your program last year, Speaker Bedke committed that they would not even consider a constitutional convention. And I remember that very much. I asked him when you were talking to him, and I asked him specifically. Now our legislature, after Governor Casey come in here a week or so ago, and on his dog and pony show that he's been doing around about 6 different states, sponsored by a very liberal outfit called Wolfpack, all of a sudden the legislature just seemed to swallow all of the nonsense that he was saying about a balanced budget amendment and holding a limited constitutional convention, which all the legal scholars say is totally impossible. People, we need to be aware that there's wolves out there that have been trying for years to get their hands on the Constitution. If we hold a constitutional convention, we will lose perhaps the Bill of Rights, the ability to have personal firearms, you know, as far as the First, Second Amendments could be modified such that you know, the socialists would take over. The agenda cannot be limited to one item.
Yeah, and let me interrupt you.
We need to be on top of these, our state legislators, and say no for a constitutional call.
I agree with you, and I'm going to be on top of that. As a matter of fact, that's an issue that is going to be discussed via a phone call to some of our legislators after the program's over this morning. And you talked about something else, and yeah, you got me sidetracked a little bit, but that's all right because I want to mention something else to you. Later on this morning, we are going to be talking about, I think it's at 9:30 this morning. Don't miss the program, because I've got a gentleman coming on the air by the name of Curtis Ellis, and he is absolutely going to get into this trade policy with Obama and how the president might get fast-track authority to also include an infringement of gun rights on the Second Amendment. And this isn't you and me talking. It's a gentleman that has studied this trade agreement. So, Adrian, stay tuned for that. It's going to be a very interesting discussion.
Yeah, when's that taking place this morning?
9:30. Don't miss it.
I won't.
All right.
Very much. I appreciate that. So, yeah, people, we have to...
All right. I guess Adrian's gone, but anyway, good morning. All right.
On the Constitution, so
Okay.
please be aware of that. And there are being bills introduced now that, unfortunately, they sound like they're very innocuous and not going to be very harmful, but it just looks like they're biting on to all of this rubbish that Casey put out and other organizations that are so-called conservatives as well.
All right, I got to run. Thank you. Thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to have that on. There are so many. Why in the world, and this is a question, hold on, caller, why in the world would Congress allow, and there's the key word, allow President Obama to be the one all catch-all, the Solomon, the king, the wielder of the scepter, etc., on trade agreements that absolutely all the information would go through him and bypass Congress, and he could just absolutely disrupt our Constitution. That's not me talking. That's many others that are very concerned about this. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh, my. You better call and make an appointment. Got an ache, got a pain, had surgery, need to strengthen up the old body a little bit from some of those aches and pains? Well, let me tell you, they've got a staff over there that knows their business. Physical therapists that can help you with sports medicine, all the exercises. Got a hydrotherapy pool, the only one like it in the area. Holy buckets, it's neat. And they can help you get back to being you. 678-1191, the number to call. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Nick Greenwell and the crew. You call them today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Talk to me, caller. Hello? Gina, where did they go?
I don't know. Hold on.
Okay, hold on. Come on, caller. Talk to me. Yoo-hoo. Talk to me, caller. Go.
Zeb, let's go back to the Super Bowl for a minute. It's better, you know the expression, it's better to give than to receive. Well, Green Bay gave the game to Seattle. Then Seattle gave the game to the Patriots. Therefore, it's better to give than it is to receive. And I've renamed it the Pooper Bowl, not the Super Bowl.
Well, now wait a minute, Bob. Doggone, you got to be a little bit fair. It was probably the most exciting Super Bowl that has been played in all the 49 Super Bowls. And even if your team didn't make the last score and win the game, I didn't like either one of them, quite frankly. But I thought it was a good game. I questioned the call, but that's football. And it was exciting.
It was a good game, except the last 20 seconds.
Okay, all right. You're going to stay in there? I appreciate it, Bob. Thank you so much. God bless.
Right.
Yeah, there's been a lot of people. You know, the criticisms of the Seahawks, the offensive coordinator, and Pete Carroll, the head coach, have been enormous over the last day. And there's been people in Seattle that really, they're mad at Pete Carroll. Look at, earlier in the game, And I'm not making a soft sale for Pete Carroll, but remember earlier in the game in the first half when there were only 6 seconds left on the clock, you got to be fair on this, come on. And everybody thought, oh, well, he can't run a play because if he does, he'll never have enough time to get a timeout called and kick a field goal. Well, Pete Carroll and the offensive coordinator did what everybody thought they wouldn't do, and that's he passed into the end zone. Oh, goodness. Touchdown. And everybody thought he was the shining knight on a great big white steed. But then later in the game, another call that went against the grain, unfortunately, cost them the game. So, come see, come saw. Anyway, good morning. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to get back to Al Sharpton a little bit. You know, here's a guy, and admittedly, I don't like him. I don't like anything about Al Sharpton. I think he is one of the most low-life personalities living on other people's turmoil and grief. I think he absolutely should be locked up in jail. Gee, how much more can I run him down? Anyway, to be in debt, $5 million in back taxes, and have basically a turnstile, open-door policy to get into the White House and visit with Obama anytime he wants to, you or I couldn't get away with that. It came out that he owes approximately $1.4 million in taxes on his businesses, all of which have been gone through the tubes, bellied up. And personally, he owes approximately $4 million. So the approximations all are right around that $5 million mark. How does he maintain what and who he is? You and I couldn't do it. Where is the secret dial to the safe to open it up and say, you can be $5 million in arrears to the IRS, but you can live a good life. You can walk in the presidential Oval Office. You can live like a king. I'd like to read the rules and regulations for that. And Al Sharpton is getting away with it. Why? What has he got on Obama and the rest of the staff? Holy cow. And speaking of Obama and the rest of the staff, did you hear about Obama's budget? Did you pick up the paper and read it? It's been in all the papers. It's been on the news about how he wants to spend us out of debt. Yeah, that's right. He wants to spend more than we're taking in. His budget that he is requesting will add $2 trillion. Oh, what's a trillion here and a trillion there? It's going to add $2 trillion more to the debt of this country. Wait. In his first term as president, he increased the debt $7 trillion. So I guess we can look at him when the door closes for the last time and he walks out of the White House. We can thank him for putting us over $9 trillion more dollars in debt. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Just like they say at a baseball game. Throw the bomb out! Anyway, time for the weather. And the weather is brought to you by Red's Trading Post. 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. They've got all the firearms of Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester. They've got all the ammunition. They've got all the accessories. And don't forget, too, they've got the availability of concealed weapons classes from LMS Defense and Legal Heat. Red's Trading Post. 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. And here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Got rain in the forecast today and for tonight, and cloudy tomorrow. Temperatures in the low 50s, overnight lows right around the 30s, and it's going to be cloudy tomorrow, becoming partly sunny, but you're going to go right back into it, so you're going to kind of like get a break for tomorrow for the weather, but otherwise for today, got some of the wet stuff going on. No snow. Right now, you're just looking for pretty much a rain event. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go, Michael, and brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 Fifth Avenue South in Twin Falls. Ryan Horsley and the crew, Red's Trading Post. Really good people. Holy cow, did you hear about that 56-year-old man back in Detroit? I'm going to talk to you about that story in just a few minutes. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hi there.
Hi there.
I'm listening to you, and my stomach is turning. First of all...
Now, just a minute, Chris. Wait a minute. The way you said that kind of made me get tears in my eyes. You hurt my feeling.
You are telling the truth.
Oh, you said I've been listening to you, and you got my stomach turning, and I thought, well, come on.
No, anxiety.
Okay.
First of all, isn't this budget supposed to last for 10 years or something like that? He's writing it up for 10 years.
Yep.
Well, what chance does the new president ever have of rectifying anything? Second of all, he has let Mr. I can't even use his name, Al, into the private corners of his life. Is he afraid of what Al can say about him publicly?
That's a good point.
Just turns a blind eye?
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and old Al is out there roughing people up who have not paid their city that maybe a parking ticket bill.
Yep.
And how many millions of dollars is he already in debt?
He is, Sharpton is $4 million personally and over $1.4 million on defunct businesses. And this leech on the rest of us is walking around in tailor-made suits, the best of shoes, the best of overcoats and ties, and he has his own TV show on MSNBC. He's living the high life.
He's living large, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Well, I think that he knows something about Obama that he is holding over his head. It's time to give him a little truth serum.
You know, okay, but let's be really blunt about something here.
Yeah.
You know whose fault it is?
Ours.
Yep, you got it.
Let it happen.
Yeah, in any respect of politics, it's your fault and my fault. It's everybody's fault. We have adopted a philosophy in this country of, oh, well, I can't do anything about it, so I'll just stay here in my own little world, and I'll just keep hoeing the garden, hoping that I raise some carrots. Good heavens, that's life for me. You know what? This country, and I don't care who's upset about it, Chris, we need to have REVOLT, a revolt. We've got to stand up and tell these politicians, wait a minute. You work for me, I don't work for you, and start tightening up the short end of the necktie so they start looking like a human thermometer and they listen to us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you that everybody in the listening audience needs to call somebody that they know that represents us in Washington, D.C., and pull up their little ties a little bit, too. Because I think we've got good people, not all of them, but good people serving us back there, that they need to be reminded that they can be replaced with even a better person.
Yeah, but, you know, there's got to be something else. I mean, I don't know what it is. We've got to have, like, a pit of snakes that we might threaten to push them into, or a great big swamp of alligators. I don't know what it is. But for some reason right now, all of our fears and worries are coming to fruition about taxation, about having the Constitution changed, about Obama maybe threatening gun owners' rights in the Second Amendment. And we sit here, we the people sit here, and we absorb this and take it as a punishment, and we haven't done anything wrong except elect those people to office.
Well, and on top of that, yes, we've got to ring their phones off the hook. But on top of that, he's talking about a 10-year plan. There's nobody that's going to want to run for the presidency who has to deal with that for 10 years.
And why should they?
Because they shouldn't. It's not there. They didn't make the deal, and they shouldn't have to carry it out.
You know, I don't care. I don't care if it's Scott Walker. I don't care if it's Rand Paul. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's even on the other side, Hillary Clinton. The American public needs to be very, very forceful and vocal and hold all of their feet to the fire. I'll give you an example. Chris Christie yesterday was very wishy-washy about vaccination programs in the schools. You can't have it both ways and have a society that's going to stay healthy. I think every question about every subject should deserve an answer that really explains where they stand and whether they be damned or whether they go ahead and be voted for. That's what they have to stand on.
Well, and the other thing is that Chris Christie, I think he thinks he's more popular than he really is. And I'm afraid he's too used to Eastern ideals and, well, the East Coast ideals, and he does not know the average man of the streets. I'd like to see these guys get out on the streets and talk to some of us who are real people.
I agree. Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. Always good to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Very nice lady right there. I appreciate her. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. How dedicated are you to get to work? How dedicated are you to get up in the morning and walk to work? How dedicated would you be to walk through the most dangerous sections of Detroit? A 21-mile round trip to go to work every day. Would you do it? We'll tell you more in just a minute. I'll get Gina on this one, too. Hey, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. It's the big Founders Day celebration. You can save on all kinds of special things, like you can save 15% on wiper blades off a new pair of wiper blades for your vehicle. And also $50 off custom wheels when you buy a set of 4. Oh, and the great tire buys. They've got all-season tread tires, economically priced, starting at just $39.99. All of this for their Founders Day celebration in honor of Mr. Les Schwab. Absolutely, all 7 locations, Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin. Of course, don't forget Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome. The Twist family and Paul, we're going to be talking to old Max here next hour. And John on Poline and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Founders Day celebration, you stop in and say hello. Hey, Gina, did you hear about this man? Walk 21 miles a day to get to work.
I saw a little news clip. I didn't read it, but I thought, wow, 21 miles a day.
Yep.
And one way? Is that one way?
No. He goes, I think he gets a little lift back part of the way at home. He goes 8 miles in the morning to work. He gets a little help in the morning. 8 miles to work and 13 miles at night back home again.
Why does it take 13 to get back home?
Well, because he didn't get that extra little lift. The one person gave him a ride for 5 miles in the morning.
Gotcha.
Well, anyway, he has done this now for years and years and years.
Like since 2005?
Yeah, never complained. Never complained. And it's in the worst part of Detroit, where there's all the muggings and the beatings and the shootings and everything else. And this man, James Robertson of Detroit, goes right down the road walking every morning. He arrives home at 4 o'clock in the morning, sleeps for 2 hours, wakes up at 6, and then starts walking for his factory job.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, my question would be, A, why doesn't he find something closer to live to his job? Or, really for 2 hours to walk 21 miles, this man is so dedicated. He's done it for so many years. And finally, some person picked him up and gave him a ride, and he was a businessman. And he knew about this man's plight, and then another person, a student of Wayne State University, Evan Leedy, started a fund for this man to possibly get him a car. And they thought, this Evan Leedy thought that maybe we can raise enough money to get him an old jalopy that might help him to work. So far, they have raised over $130,000.
Wow, he can get one heck of a car with that.
Well, he could buy a fairly decent car that's reliable for what, maybe $10,000 or something?
Yep.
And he could, with the interest on the money, which is not that good, but he could buy a lot of gas for probably the rest of his working life.
Yes.
And he wouldn't have to walk. And the reason he was walking, I heard him on television this morning. The reason he was walking is because his girlfriend is in ill health. He takes a lot of the money that he saves by walking and helps her, and he just felt like it was a commitment for him to work because his dad and mother had worked so hard for him. So even though he didn't have a car and he couldn't afford it, he kept on walking.
You know, and that is the true testament of a man.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, 21 miles. I bet you there's not 10 people in the audience that would walk 3 miles a day to go to work.
You know, my brother, he used to walk everywhere.
Really?
Everywhere, yeah. For a long time, he didn't have a car, and we were living in Western Washington, actually, when he was living over there by himself, and he would walk everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and I would buy him a bus pass, but, you know, Sean used to walk, 10 miles or better a day.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. We've got a quick phone call.
Okay, quick call. I've only got a minute. Go ahead real fast.
Hey, Zeb, extension on that story. There was a sales manager at a local car store that heard about it and talked to the owner, and they said, we got to work out a deal, and they did. All he has to do is pay $900 for the tax.
Oh, my goodness. I am so... You know, and he's a nice guy. I saw him on television. He's a very, very nice guy. His name is James Robertson, 56 years of age, and just absolutely one of the nice people in our society.
Well, the thing is, people that are willing to go the extra mile, you don't have a problem with helping them.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
There's no problem with helping. It's the ones that sit back and say, I need it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to help them.
Yeah, gimme. I want what you have. I agree with you. Hey, it's good to hear your voice, Kilt, man. God bless you, man. How's the arm doing?
Sore.
Okay.
It's working.
All right, take care, buddy. Hey, I got to run to the news. Thanks a lot. Kilt Man calling in. Appreciate that. Next hour, Max Twist talking about a red hot chili feed. Woo! No energy shortage in Paul, Idaho. We're going to have him on the air in just a few minutes. And then, of course, Curtis Ellis. I'll be back in 6. I love that piano. Isn't that neat? I don't know what they call that little ditty, but I like that. Good morning. Welcome back. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, our major sponsor, all 7 locations. Thank you very much. And some of our great advertisers, like Western Way Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always in Georgia struggle. Western Way Services, we care about our community, our resources, and misreasons. Western Way Services is lending a hand, always at Georgia struggle.
Western Way Services, locally owned and operated. I mean, they've built a business on service and reliability. And boy, you can set your watch with their route service when they come to pick up your garbage. I'm telling you, they've got all the absolute great people working for them. And as I said, they're locally owned and operated, and they care. Why don't you call them today? 734-6969 or 654-9999. And they serve all of Magic Valley. Always at your disposal. Western Way Services. 734-6969. Also, before we have our guest on the phone this morning, I want to say that I'm very, very honored to have many of our sponsors and advertisers on this program for many, many, many years. And here's another one that we just absolutely, we know them, they're our friends, and that's Joel Heward and his family and staff and Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. And they will go all over the area to rural towns and churches to serve you and your family and give you the family attention necessary when there's the passing of a loved one. Don't forget, please call them at 436-5636, always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, serving you and your family. I am going to go to the phone lines right now, and I've got, he qualifies for the trophy that is given to the good old boys. Here's a good old boy, Max Twist, over at Magic Valley Tire, Les Schwab. Good morning, good old boy. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Zeb. How are you doing today?
Well, I tell you what, it's that time of the year again where you and your cohorts over there at Magic Valley Tire, you're going to sweep up the floor and say, come on in, you're going to have a great big chili contest. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, we've got our Customer Appreciation Chili Feed, our 16th annual one, Zeb. This is our 16th annual we'll be having here. And that's coming up on our February the 14th. It's on Valentine's Day. So, you know, you can sneak in here and get you some lunch and stuff, too, with your sweetheart.
Well,
and, you know, and, of course, there's we have the chili cook-off along with that. And it's fun. We've had a blast over the years with different types of chili coming in. And they can enter that contest also. There will be prizes awarded for the best chilies. First, second, and third places, and they can, if they've got a favorite recipe, we'd sure love to have it.
All right, now tell me something, Max. Are you a professional connoisseur of chili? Are you a person that can distinguish what is good, what is not so good? Are you a kind of a chili man that likes the red hot, make you run around the block 3 times, or are you a kind of a mild child?
It's hot. It's hot, Zeb. I like the hot side of it. Yeah.
Has any...
I can stand hot. I love it.
Okay, now wait a minute. This is a challenge. This is a challenge. Are you trying to tell me that no matter how hot it is, you, Max Twist at Magic Valley Tires, you can stand up like Superman and you can take it?
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever had any that I couldn't, Zeb.
Oh, my goodness, there is a challenge. Now, what are the prizes that are going to be given away? You're going to give like first, second, and third?
Yeah, we will. It's 50, 75, and 100.
Oh, my. So are you...
for the places on the chili feed, the first 3 places, and we usually have a little something for all the entrants, you know. So. Okay.
Now, is there an entry fee?
No. Just give, we just ask that you might call Amber, here at the shop at 438-8444.
Okay.
And tell her, and tell them you've got a chili thing. You don't even have to do that, really, but it would be nice if you'd call Amber and tell her you're bringing a chili thing in and one of your favorite recipes.
Okay, now that number again was
438-8444.
8444. Okay, and ask for Amber.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to have different divisions like red pistol hot, not Max on his back pockets, and then maybe a medium, and then maybe a mild for old people like me?
Zeb, we have judges. We have different judges each year, and some of them go for that. For the hot, so it's going to be judged according to them, actually. We'll have some good judges in here, and they'll be able to pick them good chilies. And when it's them judges I've had over the years, did a wonderful job, and they know chili, because usually the first place is, boy, I love it, but there's some that I have to get, just a little bit hotter, so I try them all, Zeb, as long as I don't go into a mild stage of bloat.
Okay. All right, now, Max, tell me something. You sound, after 16 years of having this chili cook-off, it sounds to me like you are a connoisseur. You know what it takes to make a good chili. Tell us, in your mind, what are the ingredients of a very good chili?
Oh, I like lots of onions, peppers, the hamburger, there's white beans. I kind of like to go on the pinto side, on the pinto bean, and they cook them up, and chili after. Even it don't have to be, a little older chili. Even, you can have just a day. Have you ever eaten the beans? Are always the best for me on the second day. It seems like they got more flavor.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something. The rest of your staff probably doesn't appreciate your second day beans.
Don't. That's right. They probably don't. Yeah, and I love them all. I've had turkey chili. We've had all kinds. Some of them say, there's no meat in real chili, but I've always had the meat in it. And I like it that way myself.
Now, I have never heard of turkey chili. So, see, it looks like you're opening the door up for innovative ideas, aren't you?
Oh, lots of them. Anything that they would. Well, I love to have different types, and so does my people. They love to get here about that time, when all the judging's done, and then they get into all the, as long as there's some of it left on some of them entrants, besides what chili we have.
I tell you what I'm going to do, Max Twist. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
Here's the deal. You're giving away cash prizes. The first place, $100, right?
Uh-huh.
I'll add $10 to that 100 if somebody can bring in a chili so doggone hot that you say, "Whoa, I can't do it."
You can't do it. Okay. That's good, Zeb. That's good.
Okay, I'll put the extra 10 in. Okay, now tell us the starting times.
The starting time, we want the chili in around 10:30 in the morning, the entrance on the chili, okay?
All right.
And after they judge it, takes them about 30, 40 minutes to judge it, and then we're going to start feeding everyone. I think we'll have cinnamon rolls and chili, of course.
Ooh.
And that'll start at 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. on that day.
Okay, now
February the 14th.
On Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
So,
and, it wouldn't hurt for them to buy a set or two of tires while we've got wonderful deals going on tires at this time too.
Well, it's the Founders Day celebration.
Yeah, Founders Day sale, and Deb, did you ever meet Les personally?
I did. I was talking about that last hour.
You were?
Yep, it was years and years ago up in Prineville, Oregon at the headquarters, and I used to announce that Prineville Rodeo, and he always at that time had a little box seat section in the grandstands, and I met him. I can't remember the exact year, but I met him years ago up in Prineville.
Yeah, there was no finer guy in the world. I mean, he was as common as you and I.
Absolutely.
Zeb, he put this company together right,
Well, now, Max, give me a little background on that, because now, as I understand it, I did not read the book yet about Les Schwab and his venture into the tire business, but didn't he start this tire business relatively late in his life?
I can't remember but 1952 is when he started out.
Right.
And, it was a little bit, he'd worked with different tire things, and then he went on I think he was in the paper business, too, there.
I see.
But he, he has come a long ways, because he put his people first.
Yes.
These managers and of their stores and stuff. I'm fortunate. I am a member dealer to them, but he's got 60 some of us member dealers, and 300 and some of the company stores.
So overall, now they're basically in almost every western state, are they not?
Northwest, and we're over in Denver now, and we're down into California and Utah, Oregon, Washington, Montana. Yeah. We're getting they're spreading out, and they just keep going. They build several new stores a year.
I can honestly say this, not only because Les Schwab Tire Centers, the 7 locations here, are my major sponsor, but I got to tell you that I think the business is born upon and really thrives upon service and personality. Would you agree with that?
That's absolutely the way it should be, too, Zeb. I mean, everyone can have tires. Everyone can do a lot of things, but you know what people really want nowadays is the service.
Yeah.
And that personal touch, and they love it. I know I do, and I know you do. When you go to a business, you like that service. We're there to service you, and we know what we're doing.
Well, I don't know. How many locations are just in the state of Idaho alone, do you know?
Oh, gosh. There's got to be, 30-some?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
I'll bet you there's that many of them.
Well, I'll tell you what, you must go out and recruit track stars because they always come running out to the vehicle at a high lope.
We try to get there, and we do stress our service and friendliness to people.
Now, when you eat chili, I want to get back to this chili feed a little bit. When you eat chili, a lot of people like myself, I'm old, and when I get that hot chili on my palate, I'm on crutches, and I don't want to set the world speed record to the restroom. I'm looking for something that's going to satisfy that a little bit. Is milk the best thing to drink when you're eating hot chili?
No, it probably is. That's what I hear about. We usually don't have the milk here, but maybe I can get some of it here. That would be good to have some of them little cartons of milk here.
I'll tell you
and
what.
We always have homemade root beer with it.
Oh, my.
That's one of our things that we always have there with us, homemade root beer. And
well, you know what? With the root beer and the chili, you're creating enough gas right there they can drive home without taking the car.
There you go. That could happen.
All right, it's going to be Valentine's Day, and that's on the 14th. It's a Saturday.
Yep.
And it's over at Magic Valley Tire in Paul. Now, if somebody, I can't imagine, but if somebody doesn't know where you're located, why don't you tell everybody your address?
Well, we're on 25 West Dallas. We got one stoplight in this town of Paul. Everyone knows that. Whatever direction, we're just a half a block west off from the stoplight, right on the main highway. You can't miss us. We're there and we're ready to serve.
All right. Well, I got to pay a bunch of bills and do some commercials, but Max, I'm going to keep plugging it for you. It's going to be on Saturday the 14th over at Magic Valley Tire, and the challenge is there. If anybody can go with the hottest chili that Max has ever seen, and you end up winning, I'll add $10 to it. Max, we're going to get you.
Thank you.
All right. God bless you.
You bet.
Thank you
very much. Yep.
That guy is one of the nicest people I know, and I have the utmost regard for him, Max Twiss over at Magic Valley Tire. Okay, got to pay some bills, and we want to remind you about our friends at Cheney Floors. Oh my goodness sakes, these are wonderful, wonderful people, and they're located at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays 10 to 4. They've got all the new home decor items, and don't forget they've got a lot of decorations and everything ready for Valentine's Day. Oh yeah, and don't forget they've got lots and lots of newly refurbished furniture. Look for the blue door. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. I used to love hot chili. I used to love spicy foods. I used to take that Louisiana hot sauce, and I'd put it on my omelets. I'd put it on the eggs. I'd spread it all over that prime rib. I can't do that anymore. Gina, can you eat really, really hot food? I can't.
No, I can't.
Not anymore.
I don't like it when my eyeballs sweat.
I haven't heard it put just like that. I can imagine that is a oddity as far as our human nature is concerned. But
well, most people, when they eat a lot of spicy foods, their face sweats. Their eyelids will get sweaty and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not a particular fan of that. I do like spicy, but I don't like it so spicy that it's going to burn the roof of my mouth and make me breathe fire for the next 3 days.
Years ago, I pulled a relatively dirty trick on my father. And I thought, honestly, he was going to go find a weapon and was going to put me in the grave. We were at a dinner, and we were over on the north side with my in-laws, and it was a big party, kind of a Mexican dinner party, and the lady that was making all the real Mexican food, and it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. And she had a dip set on the table for all the chips. And at that time, I loved hot food. I tell you, you couldn't make it hot enough for me. And my dad came over, and they were visiting from Wisconsin, and he said, "Hey, is that dip hot?" And I said, "No." I said, "It's just really mild." Well, he took a chip full of that dip, full of that dip, and the last I saw of my father while he ran over the horizon and through the woods and across the stream was about 15 minutes later, and he was looking to get even with me. A lot of people cannot eat hot food.
Oh, I'm sure he had some choice words for you, young man.
I did not know, honestly, with the words that he used, that I had all of those items in my family tree.
Well, you know, sometimes it's in moments like that when the truth comes out.
Oh, he was mad. I mean, his lips were burned, I think, and he was cross-eyed, his ears were smoking, and he was mad. He never forgave me for that. But see, you heard Max. Nobody to this day has made a chili that is hot enough for him.
Really?
Yeah, you just said that. He's never had chili too hot.
Well, you know, and so basically just by saying that, he kind of threw down the challenge.
Oh, yeah. There has got to be somebody in the audience. There's got to be somebody that knows. There's got to be somebody that has a discount on Red Hot Chili Peppers or whatever that can make Max Twist back up and say, "You beat me." There's got to be.
I think somebody is already concocting that plan right now.
Oh, really? Who would that be?
No, I'm just saying that, you know, listeners, they get things in their head, and so I bet you somebody's already planning it.
You know, I love chili in the wintertime. I like the crackers. Now, I put brown sugar on chili. Do you like that?
Yeah, I do, actually. It makes it sweeter, and then I also like to put in a little bit of sour cream. And
ooh, I haven't tried that.
Oh, put sour cream on it. It kind of smooths out the flavor. Oh, it's just so good.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
maybe even some fresh onions.
Oh,
I'm hungry.
Now you did it. Now you did it. I just had a little problem with my health here about 2 weeks ago, and I think you're going to pick me right up off the floor. Okay.
Chili's healthy.
Okay. Hey, Valentine's Day's coming up, and don't forget Whipple's Book Plaza at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Oh, they've got the perfect gifts for all your Valentines. And if you mention that you heard this on Zeb at the Ranch, you get 10% off your purchase. Oh, my goodness sakes, except on already marked down items, but get in there. They've got books, and crafts and art supplies, everything at Whipple's Book Plaza. And it's also the home of the National Pioneer Hall of Fame and American Heritage Museum. Really nice man. Colonel Dale, Whipple's Book Plaza, 222 West 11th Street in Burley. Hey, and by the way, you're looking for a great place to go eat? It's Perkins Restaurant. I love Perkins Restaurant, 800 North Overland in Burley, and they've got a lot of great tasting Valentine's Day features on the menu, like the Coast to Coast classics, including the San Francisco shrimp, the Philly cheesesteak melt, the Monterey shrimp pasta. How about this? The big Baja Benedict and the Rocky Mountain Scramble. All of this and much, much more for Valentine's Day. Food is great. The bakery items are delicious at Perkins Restaurant, 800 North Overland in Burley. You stop in and take your sweetie there for Valentine's Day. Okay. Oh, my goodness, a fun day today. And coming up in just a few moments, we're going to have the interview with Curtis Ellis. We're going to be talking about the trade agreements that Obama is trying to not only oversee but take over on a personal note, and that's something we do not need in this country. And we're going to be urging everybody to call their senators and congressmen and say no to those trade agreements. Let's ride. Now, I'm telling you, I am so thankful to Nick over there at Let's Ride. I've said this many times on the air, but all the fun that Deanna and I have had up in the hills and everything on our four-wheelers, we thank Nick over at Let's Ride. Yes, sirree, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn. And the number to call, 436-4771. This place definitely is where the fun is sold. Absolutely. They got something for everybody in there. You like the snowmobile? They've got all the snowmobiles. The Skidoo snowmobiles and all the accessories. Four-wheelers, they got them. Go in that showroom. It'll just knock your socks off, all the choices. And, of course, there again, all the accessories. And now is the perfect time to get your four-wheelers over there for their service department to get them all ready to go vroom, vroom in the spring. Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley, 436-4771. Yep, that's where the fun is sold. Let's see, what else have I got cooking here? Later on this morning, I was going to tell you real quick, I'll just do this. It'll come as a shock to many. But for the first time in a long time, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due, I'm going to say kudos. This is going to shock somebody. Hold on to the steering wheel. Don't drive in the barrel pit. I'm going to say kudos to John Alexander, the opinion editor at the Times News. His op-ed piece this morning was spot on. Spot on. And I agree with him. That's the first time, might be the last time, that I'll ever agree with him. And it was all about vaccinations. And I totally agree with his vaccination thoughts in the Times News this morning. And I'll read a little quick quote. He said, quote, "Sending a ticking time bomb into society, risking the health and lives of others, goes beyond negligence." Kudos to John on this editorial. For once, I agree with him. Okay, Cameron Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Holy cow, they are diligent. Holy cow, they do a good job making sure that you're protected with your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. Yep, Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens. Really good guys. Really good guys. They're dedicated and responsive to your needs and very devoted to serving others. All you have to do is cough. Call them on their telephone line, make an appointment. 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. You be sure and give them a call today. Let me see, I've got to mention something else. The Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon. And Elaine Stevenson, here we go. I want to thank Elaine for her kindness in sending me this note. Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon, which will be held on Saturday, February the 28th at Maury's Steakhouse in Burley. Don't forget the meet and greet starts at 12 noon, and lunch will be served at 1. And we'll get a chance to meet many of our legislators and politicians. Once again, the Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon will be held at Maury's Steakhouse at noon, February 28th. Everybody be sure and get your tickets, and they'll be sold at the door. Okay? There you go. We're going to go to the phone lines momentarily and have our next guest on the phone. But before we do, I also want to remind you and thank our dear friends at Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center. You know, I am very blessed to have them on the air. They're located at 2303 Park Avenue in Burley, and I said yesterday they recently were awarded a 5-star rating from the government. That's the highest rating awarded to skilled nursing facilities. It's a nursing home providing medical nursing service for seniors with serious illnesses or disabilities 24 hours a day. And registered nurses, licensed practical nurses, certified nurse aides, they really take care of you. Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center. You call them today for more information. 677-3073. Located at 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center. Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the phone lines, and I've been looking forward to having this gentleman on my program all day long.
I'm still trying to get a hold of him. He is in a bad cell service area.
Oh.
I had him on the line, and then he dropped, and now I can't get him back again, so I'm continuing to try.
Oh. Well, would you prefer that I just, how about a little song and dance routine?
Okay, hey, does Deanne have his landline? There's a landline available as well. There's a secondary number.
I've got a secondary number, but it's not to him. It's, wait a minute. Let's see. Hold on.
This is him. Here we go.
All right, we're ready to rock and roll. You scared me for a few minutes, Mr. Curtis Ellis, Executive Director, ObamaTrade.com. How are you this morning?
I am just great. How are you, Zeb?
Well, I was looking forward to our conversation because you sound like a man that has all of his ducks in a row, which is more than I can say for the Obama administration. And I'm really interested to find out your thoughts about Obama and him being basically granted fast-track authority to make all the deals on international trade. Bring me up to speed. What's this man trying to do?
This man is trying to sneak something by Congress and sneak something by the American people. Again, that's what he's trying to do. Unfortunately, it seems that there are a few foxes guarding the hen house there. The GOP leadership is ready to go along with it. What the deal is he's negotiating this big, spanking new international trade agreement called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, I know Trans-Pacific Partnership sounds like some kind of mail-order bride service from the Philippines or maybe an exotic Asian escort service, but what it really is, it's a deal involving 12 countries. It's going to set up an international authority that can overrule our laws and basically tell us what we can and can't do, and all under the auspices, under the fake label of trade. Now, under Fast Track is a special mechanism that Congress, a special power that Congress gives the president, which allows him to basically stick anything he wants into this trade agreement, and then Congress can only give it an up or down vote. They can't look into the 99th page of this agreement, dig out some little nugget that he buried in there, and reject it and approve the rest of it. No, it's all take it or leave it, just like this Cromnibus deal that came down. Mm-hmm. So under the fast track authority that Congress is waiting to give this president, he'll be able to negotiate anything he wants, stick it into this thing that's called a trade agreement, and as long as it's in there, Congress can't approve, they can't vet it, they can't amend it, they have to give it an up or down vote. They either have to approve it, the whole thing, kit and caboodle, or they have to kill it.
Okay, now, Curtis, I got to interrupt you right there. I got to ask you a couple of questions as we go along. Please forgive me. Why? Why would our congressional leadership, why would they sit there on their hands, and why, either side of the aisle, why would they be basically that stupid to appoint him the powers of a king?
Well, you were asking the right question there, Zeb. I can think of a few good reasons. None of them are pretty. One is, look, these guys are so busy raising money, they don't have time to do their job. That's the way they feel. So, hey, let the president take care of it. We're too busy. We got a fundraiser to do, which leads us to the next point. Some of the big moneyed interests down there in Washington, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Business Roundtable, to name a couple, the same folks who are for so-called immigration reform, meaning open the borders to unlimited cheap labor, they're in favor of this. It's basically, if we can't bring in the cheap labor, so Americans have to compete against illegal labor here at home, let's have people compete against cheap labor on the other side of the Pacific through one of these trade agreements. So they're all in favor of this stuff, and if it means you have to give Obama more power than the Constitution allows him, if that's what it takes to get this sucker done, go ahead and do it. Give it to him. We don't care. After all, these are the same people that made money off Obamacare by requiring all of us to buy insurance. So it's the same crowd.
Let me ask you something, Curtis. You're a man that knows all about the Constitution and the amendments, etc. But how in the world do our congressional leaders allow the language like Congress would not be able to amend or even vet the completed agreement? Wait a minute. That's totally against everything this country stands for and we the people.
It totally turns the Constitution upside down, and then it shreds it, and then it stomps on it, and then it dumps it in the outhouse. See, the way the founders set up this government, it's a system of checks and balances. Congress is supposed to write the laws, and then the president has the power to either approve it or reject it, right? Mm-hmm. But under this fast-track business, the president writes the laws, and all Congress can do is approve it or reject it. That's exactly backwards. That's bass-ackwards from what the Constitution wrote. Matter of fact, the Constitution also says Congress shall have exclusive authority to regulate commerce with foreign nations, what we call trade. But again, it's a big complicated world, and we can't have 435 members of Congress negotiating a deal. Let's let Emperor Obama do it. That's the attitude down there, but it's completely against what the founders had in mind.
All right, now Curtis, there are some insidious things that definitely could be conjured into this trade agreement, and one of the things that I was reading about on the cheat sheets about what we were going to talk about this morning is gun control, and man, I want you to elaborate on that. Gun owners need to really perk up their ears and pay attention to you.
Well, we know that this president has a whole agenda about guns. It's the poor American people, they cling to their guns and their God because they're bitter and they're angry, just like the angry people that go see American Sniper. And we know that the United Nations has a small arms treaty, and we also know that this president has an agenda of making American law subservient to international law. Now, under this so-called free trade agreement, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, we call it Obama trade, he could put in there a ban on ammunition. He could put in there restrictions on the importation of guns. He could put in there, and what's already in there, and we know it's going to go in there, is it sets up a foreign tribunal staffed by unelected bureaucrats sitting in Brussels or Geneva or somewhere that get to review our laws, and that, in addition, foreign corporations, foreign governments can bring lawsuits against American laws and bring them before this foreign tribunal. It's only a matter of time before somebody says, well, guns are bad for your health, and we ought to do something to regulate the sales and possession of firearms in the U.S. But they wouldn't be going before the Supreme Court, which upheld our Second Amendment. No, they would take this suit in front of this international tribunal over there in Brussels, staffed by people we don't even know who they are, never up for election. And we saw in the Omnibus, for example, which is a good example of this catch-all legislation that you don't know what's in it until you pass it. They increased the budget for the ATF. They increased the budget for the federal gun database, largest funding increase in history. That was all buried in there. Nobody knew about it till after the fact.
Okay, now, let me jump in and ask you one very obvious question. We just had the elections, and the Republicans took over the Senate. They kept control of the House. Where is their backbone? Did they check it into the closet someplace? What happened?
Yeah, I think they did. This Trans-Pacific Partnership, as I said, it sounds like an Asian escort service. It also describes Mitch McConnell's marriage to Elaine Chao. I don't want to point fingers. It's even people who aren't married to Elaine Chao seem to be supporting this. These guys they're just on the money gravy train. Now, McConnell's wife is, the family business is shipping goods to and from China, right? Mm-hmm. He received between $5 and $25 million from this company that's in bed with the Chinese Communist government. So you got to wonder if that's kind of influencing his thinking on this. But yeah, they've checked their backbone. They've lent it out to the U.S. Chamber of Cronies, and they're not doing what we, the people, elected them to do, which is to stand up to Obama, not give him more power. We got to get that message loud and clear over to our elected representatives. We do not want you to give this guy more power.
Let me ask you this. When he had the State of the Union message, I'm sure he was referring to this particular trade agreement. But how close are we? How close is the United States and its populace into being force-fed this trade agreement? I mean, are we in the 11th hour right now?
Yes, we are. Right now, as we speak,
The House and the Senate are both preparing this fast-track legislation. It's called Fast-Track Trade Promotion Authority. Paul Ryan, the chairman of the committee that oversees this legislation, has said it is his first priority. He wants to have this done by the end of February. Over in the Senate, Orrin Hatch, he's chairman of the committee that oversees it in the Senate. He said the same thing. It's showtime, folks. The rodeo is on. This is the time. We can stop it. If President Obama does not get fast-track trade promotion authority, we have stopped this thing. And we can stop it, and the longer it gets tied up in Congress, it will die a slow death of 1,000 cuts. But it's up to us to act now. Call our elected representative. We've got a good one up there in Montana in the House of Representatives. Your new congressman is a good guy. He needs to hear from everybody right now saying, we want you to do not give President Obama fast-track trade promotion authority.
All right, now
that's on the top of our agenda.
We're in Idaho, and we've got Mike Simpson and Raul Labrador as our congressman, and I don't know what their feelings are on this, but we're going to find out. But wouldn't you agree, Curtis, that in generally speaking, the American public are absolutely, it's our fault. We don't pay attention to what's going on. We don't raise our hands and ask questions. We are duped into thinking everything they do is okay. And really, I said this first hour, and I'll say it to you. It's time for the American public to grab the short end of the necktie on these politicians and tighten it up and turn them into a human thermometer and get answers to these questions.
Amen, brother. You got that exactly right. It is up to us. They feel that they can dupe us every 2 years or every 6 years, and then we'll go away. But you're right. It is up to us. They hear from lobbyists every single day of the week. Every 15 minutes, there's somebody new coming into their office from this interest or that interest saying, we want you to do this. We've got to be just as diligent in letting them know what we want. And I'm sorry, Raul Labrador is a good guy. He needs to hear from us. He can be influenced. He is, I'm not saying I agree with everything he's done, but he's somebody that definitely he needs to hear from us. We need to be on a first-name basis with our members of Congress. They need to know who we are. They need to hear from us regularly, not just every 2 years when we show up to vote, not just maybe 6 weeks before it's election time when we go out and knock on doors and tell our neighbors who to vote for. We've got to stay on their case all the time. Otherwise, we get what we deserve.
Absolutely. Now, Curtis, give us a worst-case scenario. Let's assume that we're asleep at the switch. Let's assume the American public doesn't do or say anything. Let's assume this goes through. What, in your opinion, are we going to see happen to what's left of our Constitution and this United States?
We are going to see this United States submerged, dissolved into a worldwide system of corporate-run, unaccountable, I hate to say world government because it makes me sound like some kind of kook or weirdo, but it's basically a UN-type operation where you've got people from all over the world making the decisions about what everybody in the world, including what everybody in your corner of Idaho or in my corner of Ohio, do. So what will happen is you're going to see the Constitution relegated to a museum piece. It's something that was nice. Already there's talk about replacing the U.S. passport with a North American passport. We got John Kerry and Barack Obama are looking at international law. They've said, Kerry has said that this Trans-Pacific Partnership is the next step in integrating our economy with the global economy. Look, when I was a kid and you were a kid, and even today, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. They want to replace that, where we pledge allegiance to the global economy. And if it makes money for some guy down on Wall Street, we're just supposed to salute and say amen.
All right.
That's not the country I grew up in, and that's not what I want for my kids.
Absolutely. I agree with you. We've got a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly, please. You're on the air.
Yes, I would certainly like some information as to how we can get more information from your source and so forth, your website or information there, a contact. But also I'd like him to comment about the fact that there's most of these trade agreements have little to do with trade, and most of what you're talking about, political and economic integration, and talk about that in a little more detail. But would like to repeat your where we can get more information through your source there.
All right.
Sure. Obamatrade.com on the internet. We call it Obama Trade because it's one of these deals where Congress has to pass it to find out what's in it, like they said about Obamacare. Obamatrade.com. You'll see some videos there. We had a press conference with major conservative organizations talking about what's going on with this treaty, why they're opposed to it. You'll see there's a drop-down menu with all kinds of details about what's in this Trans-Pacific Partnership, which again is not a mail-order bride service from the Philippine Islands. And there's also, in the right-hand column, there's a Contact Congress. There's a button that'll hook you right up to your congressional office so you can send a message. And you know, your caller is astute. I'm glad he's familiar with this. This is not about trade. Look, trade is usually about quotas and tariffs. How much money are we going to slap on something coming across the border? Or how much of it are we going to allow in? How many cars are we going to allow Japan to sell in this country? Those quotas have already been reduced to near zero. Most of that is gone already. That's been taken care of 20 years ago. What this is about setting up a global set of rules that will determine how much patent protection, how long, what you can watch on the internet, copyright protection, when your internet service provider has to take down websites because some lawyer says, I think there's a violation of my Disney copyright here. It's regulation on a global scale. You think you're having a hard time with state regulations or federal regulations by the EPA? You're going to have global regulations, and you won't even know who to call or where to go to complain about these regulations. Well, in fact, you won't be able to complain to anybody about it because it's going to be beyond the reach of Congress. The regulations won't be written in Washington anymore, which is bad enough. They're going to be written by in some back room at a non-disclosed address. That's the fact of what this agreement is about, and even the supporters of this agreement have acknowledged that.
I think you would agree with me, Curtis, that the more people look at this and study this heinous act, it is actually a dissolving. It's a complete ruination of our borders and a combination of adding to Mexico and Canada in trade agreements where basically we've become a borderless United States. Would you agree with that?
That's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head there, Zeb. This is the other half, the other side of the coin of the open borders agenda. One side of the coin is this immigration business, uncontrolled immigration from Mexico, Central America. Just let them in. These are migrants. They're allowed. People migrate like birds. How can we dare have a border to stop them? And the other, with this so-called, and I say so-called because it ain't a trade agreement, as your caller pointed out, this Trans-Pacific Partnership, this dissolves our economic border. So, look, if I want to invest my money in my neighborhood or in my state or in your state, across state lines in America, the Constitution says you can't erect a barrier between commerce between the states. Well, now they're taking it further, and they say, well, you can't erect commerce between commerce anywhere within this partnership agreement. Well, it just so happens that we've got the nation of Brunei in this agreement. They practice Sharia law. They will put you in prison if you bring a Bible into the country. They will stone you if you talk to somebody about Jesus Christ. Now, why on earth are we giving them the same privileges as the people in Idaho, or the people in Texas, or the people in California? I mean, I believe in borders. I believe that we have certain inalienable rights that we have worked long and hard to define and to uphold. And I believe that the American people living by these laws deserve special privileges. We shouldn't just be giving everybody the same privilege as somebody here.
Absolutely.
My humble opinion.
Absolutely. You got to promise me to come back. I'm out of time in this segment. Curtis Ellis, Executive Director, ObamaTrade.com. You are excellent. I'll have you back in the near future. Thank you, sir, and a very, very good day to you.
And to you, too. Thanks for spreading the word, Zeb.
All right. God bless. Thank you so much.
God bless.
I'm going to keep him in our stable of return guests. And that, of course, again, is Curtis Ellis, Executive Director, ObamaTrade.com, a political communications consultant and writer for WorldNet Daily. Knows what's going on. And can you imagine our Congress, our Senate, how they could be that stupid to basically appoint king-like actions from Obama with a fast-track authority to where he's standing up there with a scepter and this will be done or this will not be done. Please! Where in the world is common sense for our Senate and our Congress? It died. And they have no backbone. We got to get the weather in here. I'm running a little bit late, and I want to remind you our weather sponsor, Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. 382 North Overland and Burley. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today. You better believe it. Oh, so you've had a sprain, maybe a strain, a fracture, ear infection, or whatever. Urgent care is primarily used to treat patients who have an injury or illness that requires immediate attention, but not serious enough for a visit to the hospital. So please remember them. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 678-6996. They will see you today. And right now, here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. Got rain in the forecast today for tonight, and cloudy tomorrow. Temperatures in the low 50s, overnight lows right around the 30s, and it's going to be cloudy tomorrow, becoming partly sunny, but you're going to go right back into it, so you're going to kind of like get a break for tomorrow for the weather, but otherwise for today, got some of the wet stuff going on. No snow. Right now, you're just looking for pretty much a rain event. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to everybody by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center, 382 North Overland in Burley. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today. Got time for some calls. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just can't imagine how in the world we are getting so far away from the basics of that Constitution. My dear friend Dr. Arp has called many, many times with great concerns, has others called and said, what in the world are our politicians doing? What in the world are they trying to destroy the greatest Constitution of the greatest country ever in the history of the world? And they seem to be doing all they can to thwart it and destroy it. But as much as I despise, and that's the word I'm going to use, as much as I despise Barack Obama and his ideologies and his statement of I'm fundamentally going to change the United States, which he is trying, we the people have got to stand up and look him and the other liberals in the eye and say, go sit down and behave yourself. It's almost past time. If we let him have the fast-track authority to go yay or nay on free trade agreements and destroy literally our amendments and our rights and our freedoms, we've had it. We've had it. And we are very, very close. Let's not forget our dear friend Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology. Are you having trouble hearing this? What did he say, Martha? Well, I just said, are you having trouble hearing this? If you are, I suggest you call Christine Pickup today, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and make an appointment. The number to call, 312-0957. 312-0957. Hearing loss is not a part of aging. Don't ignore it. You be sure and give her a call and find out what the problems are. 312-0957. Did you hear the dog in the background? Okay, so did I. Scared me to death. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Christine Pickup. You give her a call today. Gina, are you right there, please?
Let me guess. Dr. History just walked in?
Yeah, but little Ruby has a tendency to lay under my feet.
Oh.
And she was at a high lope, leaving the studio and barking, and yours truly, we almost had an accident because it scared me to death.
Thank God that part of your body is hidden underneath the desk.
That is probably very true, because I'll guarantee you that dog does that again and we might have a problem.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so I'm going to let you pick out the outro song. So what do you want to hear?
You know, I just wish people, and you were listening to this man, I know, over at the station, but why are people so blasé about the loss of their freedoms, the loss of their rights, and basically the loss of the concept of what America stands for?
Because they don't understand it, they're not paying attention, and they're too busy with their other lives to pay attention to what's really important right now.
I got to be honest with you, there's a song that I know I overplay, but it means so much to me because of the way it's sung, and it's meant to get people up and stick their chin out and go after somebody that's not doing right for America, and that's Toby Keith and the Angry American. You can have it. I'll be back in 6 with Dr. History. You're probably wondering, where's Zeb? Well, I'm here, but I was busily involved in a communication with our dear guest that's on the program with us. Good morning. This is Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch, and our major sponsor, of course, Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and service is the key word. And also, we want to say thank you to Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage, locally owned and operated, 734-6969. Oh my goodness, don't forget, have I got a special for you today that will just knock your boots off. It's delicious at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today they're having chicken and roasted tomato macaroni. Oh, with garlic toast. Be sure and go up and breathe on your girlfriend. Vegetables and super salad. It's going to be fantastic. I love that one. Wait till you hear what they got tomorrow, too. The Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Great food. Nice people at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Delicious. We are right now going to have my dear friend come on the program, and that is Dr. History. And Dr. History is brought to you by our friends at Minnecasia Sales. Oh, my goodness sakes. That's quite a business, Dr. History. I mean, they've got everything over there. They've got doors, windows, garage doors. They've got carpet and vinyl and metal siding. They're a distributor for the best farm equipment, panels and everything. Tartar, the very best. He's reading a book. He's not paying any attention to me. And, of course, Zach and Joanne and all the crew waiting to serve you at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley, 878-2091. Absolutely the best of people, the nicest of people with the best of products, Minnecasia Sales.
And I'll just throw in, Zeb, I have personally had them do work for me, and they do great work.
Well, they just put a brand new door in for me.
Yeah.
Did you see that door?
I did.
What do you mean you didn't see it? You walked right through it. Your eyes kind of had a questioning look. I'm beginning to wonder if your old age isn't catching up with you.
Well, maybe a little.
Okay. How are you?
I'm doing great.
And as always, we are now heard in how many countries?
About 82 to 83, about 170,000 hits now.
170,000 people we've managed to stay friendly with.
Well, we hope.
Yeah.
We hope they come back.
Okay. Now, tell me, I'm going to give you a chance to give a little tease. What part of history are we going to talk about today?
All right. We're going to talk about a man, his horse, and the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
Uh-oh, General Custer.
No.
Oh, how about General Keogh?
Okay, now I'm leading up to this, Zeb. What is the most famous horse in the West?
Well, I can't remember. It was a sorrel horse at the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
Yes.
I cannot remember the horse's name to save my life.
It's an Indian name.
It's not Geronimo.
Indian tribe name.
It's not TP. It's not...
How about Comanche?
That was my next choice. There you go.
All right. Well, Comanche wasn't an average cavalry issue horse. Captain Miles Keogh's personal horse He was a well-trained, splendid mount that stood out in a herd. Comanche was a babe, born sometime during the Civil War, probably around 1862. A little over 15 hands high and weighed well over 900 pounds. And over the years, he'd collected an impressive number of battle scars from his adventures on the Indian Wars, where he earned his name. Comanche was injured by an arrow during a skirmish with Indians in the Cimarron County near Dodge City, Kansas, and he let out a bellow, and his cry of pain sounded a lot like the scream of a charging Comanche warrior. So Comanche was his name.
When you scream if you had an arrow stuck in your butt?
I don't know if I'd sound like a Comanche warrior, but maybe I would.
Okay.
Anyway, Comanche was known for his stamina and courage, as well as his ability to get by on cheatgrass or willow bark just like an Indian pony. So he was readily identifiable and known to most of the men in the 7th Cavalry. And we're going to get into that.
Right.
So we've got to talk about the man. Captain Miles Keogh was a man who loved good horses, and he took excellent care of his horse. He and Comanche were an inseparable pair on numerous adventures and campaigns into Indian country. Now, Keogh was also one of the most interesting men in the famous 7th Cavalry. He was born in Ireland in 1840, and he liked, well, like a good Irish boy of his age, he loved strong drink, a good fight, and the Catholic Church. He also hated England and bullies, and after a few years in college, he longed to test his hand against the world, so he sailed for Africa and adventure.
Oh, my.
Later, when the Pope called for good Catholics to defend the Catholic lands, young Miles took the first ship to Europe. He quickly rose to the office of lieutenant in the Pope's army. He fought valiantly and was awarded a medal personally by the Pope for his bravery.
Personally?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, a little background about him. But by the time he received the cross from the Pope, the American Civil War had started. And that sounded exciting. He boarded a ship for the United States and promptly joined the Union Army. His Civil War record was distinguished. He quickly rose to the rank of major. And after the surrender, he was mustered out of the Union Army, which a lot of them were. Now, as a civilian, he joined up again. And a year later, as a captain, to seek his fame and fortune on the Great Plains fighting the Indians. And this is where he became associated with our good friend George Armstrong Custer.
Yeah, but you said our good friend. You didn't say his good friend.
Well, actually, they were sort of good friends.
Really?
Yeah. And again, Custer was another former Civil War officer. We know that.
Yep.
And he, as we know, was seeking fame on the plains. The two men developed a mutual appreciation for each other, and I don't know if you could call that a friendship, but they had a respect and love for fine horses.
I see.
They both liked horses.
Yeah.
Now, when on campaign in the West, Keogh and Comanche were always in the thick of the battle. The captain was unquestionably a brave man, a characteristic that Custer appreciated. Now, the Irishman drank heavily, but his drinking apparently didn't impair his duty. Some guys could do that.
Like the guy that played in all the John Wayne movies. Like the big sergeant in Fort Apache.
Right.
Remember him?
Yeah, he could drink with the best.
Oh, my.
So, but because of unrelated Indian accounts recorded at a later date, we have a good idea where the two famous soldiers made their stand at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Custer, of course, had divided his command into 3 battalions. Captains Benteen and Reno with their troops. The plan was to attack the Indians in a 3-pronged charge. Each battalion was quickly bogged down. And, of course, we know Custer's command charged into the village and found stiff resistance. They were forced to retreat up the nearest hillside and make a stand. Now, legend may have over-dramatized Keogh's sad end. One version says that the Irishman fought like a wildcat to the very end and was the last of his troops to die. Now, an Army scout who came upon the scene a few days later said it looked like he was indeed the last to fall. Now, this same scout at a later date said he interviewed some Sioux braves who confirmed his statement. And it's a good story, and it may be true, but no one knows for sure. Now, another brave questioned a few years later, he said that Keogh was one of the first of the group to go down, taking a couple of slugs from the opposing ridge, but perhaps the most believable account of Keogh's end was that told by a Sioux brave by the name of Little Soldier. Mm-hmm. And he was watching the troops from another ridge. Now, according to his account, he said a slug hit Comanche, passed through the horse, and shattered Captain Keogh's knee. Now, no longer able to stand, Keogh kneeled down, holding the reins of his well-trained horse, and returned fire from underneath the horse. He finally went down with several bullets fatally struck him, and still holding desperately to the horse's reins.
Really?
That's the most accurate account that we have of the end of Captain Keogh.
I got to interrupt you and ask a question. Were you, when you read this account, at all inquisitive as to A, how somebody managed to find the Indians to talk to, and B, after a massacre like that, why they were willing to talk about it?
That's a good question. And I think one thing is Keogh and Comanche were a very prominent or noticeable pair. And so the Indians, I think, took note of such a magnificent horse.
I see.
That's just a guess. But
I see.
this fellow, this Indian little soldier, says that he came to take his horse, Keogh's horse, since it looked like such a fine horse. But he didn't want to take an animal held by a dead man, which they considered bad medicine. Now, apparently others felt the same way, too. So Comanche was not led away by any of the victorious warriors that afternoon. Keogh was, in fact, one of the few men in the 7th whose fallen body was not mutilated. Now, he was stripped of his clothes and boots, but the cross that he wore, being a Catholic, may have saved his body from the fate that befell so many of the men that day.
Yeah.
Now, the Sioux would have been familiar with such a cross and may have considered it strong medicine, a sign to leave Keogh's body alone. Now, the battlefield was not a pretty sight, and we've talked about that before. The frustration the Indians felt for years of broken treaties, the violation of their homeland, the fact that the soldiers had attacked them. Every piece of useful clothing or gear was stripped from the dead men.
That's right.
Now, the stories and legends that surround the Battle of the Little Bighorn often give readers the impression that Comanche was the only 7th Cavalry horse that survived the battle. That's not true. The Sioux warrior by the name of Gall said that the Sioux rounded up between 100 to 150 cavalry horses that day, and when the reinforcements arrived on the fields later, they collected a few more that the Indians had failed to capture.
Mm-hmm.
But they also disposed of the wounded animals that were suffering, any that were in bad shape. Now, Comanche was discovered in a small draw, and he was riddled with bullet and arrow wounds. Captain Keogh's saddle was upside down, hanging under the horse's belly. Now, the pad and the saddle blanket were gone. Now, reporters wrote that he was wounded 7 times in all, which became an accepted fact. But we're still really not sure, but that's what they say. But he was severely injured, and when the troopers found him, there was talk of shooting him to put him out of his misery, which would have been the logical thing to do.
Well, it was 7, were they, arrow or bullet holes?
Both.
Oh, my goodness.
So, however, since he was such an excellent horse, an officer decided that the troopers should try and save him if they could. So, with some effort, the soldiers were able to carefully get the wounded Comanche to a riverboat anchored at the mouth of the Little Bighorn River. Now, close to death, he was brought to Fort Abraham Lincoln in North Dakota. No longer able to walk by himself, with tender care and a sling to suspend him, it took him nearly a year for him to fully recover.
Wow.
Now, when he was in good shape, the officers decided that he had earned the right to be retired from active duty. He enjoyed being ridden by the children of the fort.
Oh, my.
And became a 4-legged celebrity.
Oh, my.
Now, in 1878, however, several children had an argument over who was to ride him, and the company commander decided that out of respect for his service, he should never be ridden again. Comanche, he said, was the only living representative of the bloody tragedy of the Little Bighorn. So he said he will not be ridden by any person whatsoever under any circumstances. And this pretty well sealed the legend of Comanche. So basically he was a living mascot for the battle. For 15 years, Comanche walked in parades, draped in black cavalry boots pointed backwards, draped in the saddle, symbolizing the loss of Custer's battalion. And you've seen this in parades before, Zeb.
Well, they do it for presidents that pass away.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yeah. So Comanche lived out a life of ease. He had the run of the fort. He was allowed to eat out of the garbage cans if he wanted to. When his caretaker and friend, a guy by the name of Gustav Nave, was shot and killed at the Battle of Wounded Knee, the poor horse felt the loss and his health actually started to deteriorate. Now, stable hands believed that the beloved old warhorse missed his friend, and on November 7th, 1891, Comanche passed away, and he was nearly 30 years old. Now, Zeb, you and I have been around horses, and to live 30 years for a horse is pretty unusual.
We had one that was with us that lasted till he was 32.
And that's very unusual.
Unbelievable.
And especially a horse that had gone through what Comanche had gone through.
Yeah.
Now, the 7th wanted Comanche to be a permanent part of the regiment, so they looked for a way to preserve him. They contacted a man by the name of Dyke from the University of Kansas who consented to do the taxidermy job for $400. Now, when the job was done, he told the Army that if they wanted to donate the horse to the university, there would be no charge for his services. Well, at that time, shipping and costs were a little high, and the 7th Cavalry was due to move, so the soldiers kind of reluctantly agreed to let Comanche stay in Kansas. Now, in 1893, a stuffed Comanche became a symbol of all that was true and brave. He was exhibited at the Chicago Expo. Afterwards, he returned to the Museum of Natural History at the University of Kansas. So now other people wanted him. In fact, there's a museum up in Montana, the Custer Battlefield Museum. They wanted him. There was several other places, but
have you ever been there?
The Custer Battlefield, yes, I have.
Eerie place.
It really is. It's a somber, solemn place to visit.
Absolutely.
Almost sacred in a way. But so anyway, one can still visit Comanche at the University of Kansas, where he's preserved behind a climate-controlled glass. And while Comanche may not be the most famous horse in the Old West, he's certainly the most famous horse in the United States Cavalry. And I don't know if you remember this, but he was the subject of a Walt Disney movie. Do you remember ever seeing that movie?
If you give me just a minute, I'll try to think of the title of the movie. They didn't call it Comanche.
Yeah, I can't remember.
They called it something else, and I do remember. I do remember the movie.
Yeah, and it's been many years since I've seen it, and of course, being a horse lover, any movie with horses, and that was one that I probably need to go back and watch again.
Yeah.
But in his day, writers boasted that this noble steed was the only survivor from the Battle of the Little Bighorn, although quite a few Sioux begged to differ on that account. So Comanche was really the most noted four-legged survivor from the doomed Custer battle.
Let me ask you this, and excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat. You got to admire the journalists of that time. Now, you said that they had approached some of the warriors that fought at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, a year later?
Yeah, a year or two later.
Okay, but the Sioux Indian Wars and the other associated tribes that were with the Sioux that day at Custer's Last Stand, that was an ongoing battle for years to come. I mean, it didn't end right there in 1876.
No, and they had battles before that and battles
after that. So now my question would be, and I think you'll agree with me, to be a journalist and go in and ask questions of the tribe and the warriors, that took a little moxie on its own.
Well, not unlike today with reporters going into Afghanistan and Iraq and places like that. It had to be dangerous, and we don't know how many journalists maybe tried to get an interview and didn't come back.
Yeah. And it's surprising, to talk to the Indians. Did they use an interpreter? Did they were the Indians really forthcoming in the information that wasn't jaded against the whites? I mean, there's a lot of questions there.
Well, and even as we have discussed the battle itself, there's questions about where Custer actually died.
Isn't there also questions about where most of the main battle took place?
There is, and you can have several people telling the same story from a whole different viewpoint, and I've seen this time and time again with history. I've read different accounts of the same thing, and you would almost think it was two different battles or incidences.
Yeah. I know that there was some question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a lot of question as to basically were the troops under Custer's regiment, were they centered in a small area and basically tried to go back-to-back in hand fighting and pistol shooting and everything. It was supposedly up on a little knoll, and then I've heard discrepancies to that story that it was almost down towards the river bottom.
Well, one story I read was that that Custer was actually shot down in the river while he was crossing the river.
I've heard that same story.
His men picked him up, put him back on his horse, and at that point, did he make it back up to the Last Stand Hill? I don't know.
But now, they had made through history the remarks that Custer was the only one that was not mutilated by the Indian squaws that went through the dead soldiers. It was the squaws that did the mutilation. And but it was also Keogh. You said he was not touched.
Yes, and I would have to think that... again, as I mentioned, the Indians respected the Catholic cross. That I suspect there were other men that may have had a Catholic cross around their neck besides Keogh. Now, I don't know that for sure.
You know, in history, though, Doc, it's so easy to take a white against the world, or, you know, like Custer against the Indians, etc. But let's be really honest about General Custer and what happened there on that day with the 7th Cavalry. All of this, I think, when I've studied that, and there's books on that shelf over to your left that absolutely I've read a lot about it. It could have been avoided, and absolute negotiations would have been preferred, and I think they'd have been further ahead with their relationship with the Indian tribes.
You know, Zeb, I'm reading a book right now about Kit Carson. And one of the things this book talks about is that the officers, a lot of the officers were... how should we put it, less than desirable men as far as their moral standards, their a lot of them were drunks.
Well, you will agree with me, though, Ken, that looking at General Custer, for instance, it was nothing more than another feather in his cap to try to go higher up the food chain.
Exactly, and had he waited for the rest of his reinforcements,
absolutely,
the battle would have turned out probably much different.
Wouldn't you say it was arrogance and stupidity?
It really was. And as I mentioned, you know, Keogh and him were out there to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
So,
interesting story, and I have seen, and I've got over here someplace in a couple of my books, a picture of Comanche, and also before he passed away, when he was residing at that Fort, what was it, Abraham Lincoln? I think he said he was at Fort Abraham Lincoln, right?
I think that's when he was being...
treated?
Yes.
Okay, and then also I have a picture someplace that at the university that you mentioned.
Right.
So, anyway, interesting story about Custer's last stand.
Well, just a little different viewpoint, and I guess we're going to go check out that Disney movie and see how accurate that is.
Do that. You know, that's the problem I have, and I've only got a minute left, and I got to do a commercial break. But I really chide and chastise Hollywood because they distort history so bad. There's an old movie with Henry Fonda about the OK Corral. It's completely erroneous, and it shows Doc Holliday getting killed at the OK Corral. He didn't die at the OK Corral. And I just wish that Hollywood, if they're going to do something that's of historical value, they would treat it with respect.
I agree 100%. They glorify and dramatize, and
it's terrible.
So the movies that do depict things accurately, I like to read a book, and then I like to see the movie to see how accurate the movie and the book are.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you take screenwriters and also the big Hollywood sell, and it can take a relatively good story and just trash it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are we going to talk about next week, real quick?
It's such a mystery at this point that I won't tell you.
That's a cop-out, and you know it.
I haven't got a clue.
Hey, God bless you, man. That was great. And while we have a chance here, real quick, I want you to say personally thank you to Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley, for sponsoring your segment, Dr. History. They've got everything, you know, all the doors. I just put a brand new door in my house from them, and you say you've done some work with them, too, and they've got the vinyl and metal siding and all the Tartar and Farm and Ranch equipment. I don't know about you, but I do know that Tartar Farm and Ranch equipment, the very, very best. All of this with Zach and Joanne and the rest of the folks over at Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley. Number to call, 878-2091.
Yeah, they did some countertops in our Laundry room just finished up, did a great job.
Okay, I also have to tell everybody, don't forget on Thursdays we have a segment called Cassia County School Days, and it's sponsored by wonderful people. A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and don't forget they've got all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs. I am amazed that the amount of people that wear scrubs are so comfortable. And of course they've got all the baby material, all the furniture. They've got everything right there for your family, the fun, the games, the toys, everything at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget, too, the wonderful folks at the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley. And now this week, Dr. Michael Coughlin, a foot surgeon well established in the Northwest, is going to begin seeing patients at the Ambulatory Surgery Center. So stop in, give a call, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and Child's World sponsoring Cassia County School Days. Caller, I've got 30 seconds, real fast, go.
I think the name of that movie was War Horse.
I think you're right. I'll talk to Dr. History about that. Thank you for calling. God bless you.
Okay.
Was the name of the movie War Horse?
I don't think so. There was War Horse that talked about the horse in World War II.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure.
We'll do a little investigatory work and find out. How's that? Okay, Dr. History, thank you very much. We are going to send this back over to our main studios. Gina's ready to go. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Best.
Oh, good morning and welcome back. Valentine's Day's right around the corner, and you'd better get a nice gift for your lovey. How about the bookstore over at 515 5th Street in Rupert? Caramel-filled chocolate hearts. Oh, I mean, drool all over the microphone. Caramel-filled chocolate hearts. Oh, and fudge to die for, and fudge-dipped cinnamon bears. Oh, my. She's going to love you. Jewelry, Valentine's Day cards, books, everything right there at the bookstore. 515 5th Street in Rupert. You stop over and see those good folks today. They got all the delicious flavors of fudge. You're going to love shopping at the bookstore. Hey, and by the way, let's not forget our friends at the Dreams Day Spa and Salon, 123 East 23rd, and that's right there in Burley. Oh, my goodness. Today we're going to talk about Isabel. You can get a pedicure with Isabel, only $55 with a free upgrade of gel, glitter, polish, and value of $25. I'm telling you what, all of that has been reduced in price. You can't afford to pass this up. Talk to Isabel today at Dreams Day Spa and Salon for your lovey at 123 East 23rd in Burley, 878-4640. Nice folks at Dreams Day Spa. Okay, let's go to the phone lines, and I've been looking forward to this visitation all morning long, and we have with us on the phone Kyle Drennan, news analyst with the Media Research Center. Hello, Kyle Drennan, how are you?
Hi, Zeb. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Well, no, it's my pleasure, and I'm absolutely excited to talk to you about a lot of things that are going on in the news, especially this one story is really interesting to me. I was watching when John McCain basically lowered the boom on some of those protesters and called them low-life scum, and for the first time in years, literally, I regained a lot of lost respect for John McCain. Bring us up to speed on that story, would you please?
Sure, yeah. These Code Pink protesters, they have done this so many times. They've interrupted and tried to interrupt so many Capitol Hill hearings, both in the Bush administration and now under the Obama administration, interrupting Democrats and Republicans alike. And just the other day, they broke into this Capitol Hill hearing, and they had various former secretaries of state there to talk about global security issues. And Henry Kissinger was there, and they just got right in his face. They were screaming, they had signs, and they were demanding that he be arrested as a war criminal. just really nasty stuff. And John McCain had it, and he just he called the Capitol Hill police in to escort these people out and arrest them. And one guy was still shouting after the fact, and he told him to shut up, and called him get out of here, you low-life scum. And it was quite a moment. I think a lot of people sort of appreciated it. And just the other day they were talking about it on Morning Joe on MSNBC, and it was kind of funny because you had all these sort of typical liberal pundits on MSNBC, but they were all applauding John McCain for this. Like, well, good for him. That's what we want to see our leaders do, to just sort of stand up and put a stop to this kind of just ridiculous protesting. It's not even legitimate protesting. At a certain point, it becomes you're shouting other people down. You're not allowing other people to speak and conduct the business of Congress. And so you had all these MSNBC people actually praising McCain for it, though you did have one of the co-hosts of Morning Joe, Thomas Roberts, objecting, saying, well, no, I think these people need to be heard. If I don't think John McCain should be doing this. And it was kind of funny because all the other MSNBCers kind of turned to him and said, well, no, you can't have people screaming and interrupting important Capitol Hill meetings like this. You can't conduct business that way. So that was just sort of an interesting moment where even the liberal media, several members of the liberal media at least, were sort of actually on John McCain's side on something, because even they realized that these Code Pink protesters were just over the top.
And this, Kyle, is indicative, I think, of what's happened in this country with a lack of respect, a lack of civility, and also a lack of rules and regulations. And I blame it on the liberals. I really do. I was surprised when I watched this hearing. I was surprised that they let these people get so close, literally bumping into some of the occupants of that table, including 91-year-old Henry Kissinger. And I was surprised that there wasn't security that was there that absolutely would take their billy clubs and say, back off, Jack. And the thing that really surprised me the most is that they were allowed to get in and basically could have caused physical assaults on these people, and they didn't seem like they had adequate security there that morning.
Yeah, no, and it definitely seemed John McCain was sort of reacting to that too, like where, he basically sort of asked, where are the Capitol Hill police? Why are they not in here? And I do remember in the Bush years, I remember that another bad incident where Condi Rice was at a hearing, and you had some Code Pink protesters had fake blood all over their hands, and they were like right in her face with that. And and it's like, okay, they're anti-war protesters. This is sort of their MO, but you never know who it could be, really.
That's right.
In that type of a situation, and it is a security concern.
Well, let me ask you this, and you study this for a living, but there was a couple of weeks ago, and it went for about almost a month. Fox News and Dish Network got into a big hubbub, and they kind of canceled their contract on Dish Network, and we were forced to basically kind of pick and choose the news on other networks, be it CNN or be it MSNBC or whatever it might be. And there were a couple of mornings that I turned on the show Morning Joe to kind of get a recapitulation of what was going on in the news. I really, honestly, didn't know how to take that Morning Joe program. I think Joe Scarborough means well and leans towards a conservative vein, but the rest of that table, I just shook my head. What is your take on that show on MSNBC?
Well, I think it is your sort of typical, MSNBC type show that is, it's just got these panels of, mostly liberal journalists and pundits who are just there to sort of, just give whatever their sort of liberal talking points are of the day, on whatever the story is. And I mean, I think compared to some of the other MSNBC shows, like some of the MSNBC primetime shows, which are just really off the deep end. I mean, on Morning Joe, maybe you'll actually get somebody, a journalist, who's somewhat fair, or maybe they'll even have somebody on from like National Review or something occasionally. And so maybe you actually get something, or even this John McCain thing, you'll get something where, even the liberal pundits can sort of, analyze things in a way that, that's actually kind of reasonable sometimes, because you just have such a variety of people. So, I mean, I think that's good, but at the same time, it's these are sort of the people who just, they bring on all these different pundits who kind of just sort of repeat the usual sort of inside the beltway conventional wisdom, this is what the media narrative is today, and sort of, they're just kind of setting that agenda for the rest of the day. Like, this is how, the left, it's really a good place to go to if you want to sort of figure out, here's what most of the liberal media is thinking about whatever the issue is that morning.
Yeah,
like these are their talking points. This is how they're going to, for the most part, try to frame the debate about whatever the issue is that day, or issues are that day. So that's really, it's kind of a good place to go and say, well, what is sort of the conventional wisdom in the liberal media today? Go to Morning Joe, and that's basically what you'll get there.
Let me put you on the spot for a minute, if you will. I was very interested in the interview between Savannah Guthrie of NBC and the president. And I'm going to start with you being on the hot seat and make it a short answer, and then I'll come back with another question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very good, 1 being really, really poor, how would you have rated the interview that Savannah Guthrie conducted with President Obama?
I would put it probably around a 7 or an 8. It really was pretty good. She was pretty tough on him.
Okay, now you're going to be surprised. I am a real conservative, and I'm really nitpicky against Obama and other people in the media I think are too soft on him. I was literally shocked, and quite frankly, my 8 coincides with your 8. At first, when the little tease of the interview was on during the Super Bowl, when they were in the White House kitchen talking about beer and other things, I thought this is going to be one of the most softball, idiotic interviews I've ever seen in my life. I changed my entire mind, and I'm going to say this, and you may not agree with this. I do not like Bill O'Reilly because I think he's almost to the point of being a bully and very obnoxious. And comparing the interviews with the information that I gathered and the way that Obama was on the hot seat answering the questions, I actually give Savannah Guthrie a better score than I did O'Reilly. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I think it's an interesting situation because I think, when Obama goes to sort of the networks, the standard liberal media outlets, especially NBC, I think he is sort of I think he may have expected something a little softer, a little, especially if they were drinking the beer together and everything. So I think he, when you have a situation when someone like Savannah Guthrie, is just hammering him with all these tough questions, I think he's really thrown off by that. And I think he got, he had some, contentious exchanges with her. And, as opposed to, if he interviews with O'Reilly or something, he's going in, all ready to be confrontational and everything. But with Savannah Guthrie doing it, it's sort of like, I think it maybe throws him off a bit more.
I agree.
So I think, I think you can sort of get a situation where, she hammers him with these tough questions and he gets thrown off balance because, this is NBC News, he's not necessarily expecting that.
Yeah, but there's a yeah but there, though.
It's a better situation.
There's a yeah but there, Kyle, and I think you're going to agree on this. This is 2015. A lot of the media is seeing through the smokescreen of Obama's failed policies. If she, Savannah Guthrie, had conducted the same interview a year ago in 2014, I dare say to you, and I'll make wagers that it would have been nothing but softballs.
Yeah, in the lead up to the midterm elections, especially, it's you do sort of wonder what it would have been like there, where the media was much more concerned with what's the election, how is the election going to turn out, and might have sort of formed ranks a little bit more behind Obama. But yeah, I mean, now he's in the last couple years of his presidency. Everybody's sort of already moving on to 2016. So I do think the media may feel a little bit more free to criticize him now. So you may see more of this. And also, I mean, I just think with foreign policy, it's reality is reality. So even the liberal press at some point, if the reality on the ground in the Middle East is chaotic as it is, it's at a certain point you have to acknowledge that, and you can't just sort of sweep that under the rug forever. At some point, you have to say, wow, things really aren't working out with your policies here. I mean, so I do think at some point reality can sort of overtake the traditional bias at times, and I think that's part of what you saw here is Savannah Guthrie just saying things are a mess out there. What's going on?
Have you ever played poker?
Yes, I have. Not recently, but yeah, I have.
Okay, you know what a tell is, don't you? When people study people's faces and everything? All right, well, when you look at Obama, and try this tonight on the news, or look at the tape of Savannah Guthrie, and look at the poker game that was going on right there between Guthrie and Obama. Always look at Obama's eyes and how they get wider and more of a stare quality, and then look at that forehead. You can tell the temperature rising 80 degrees on that man. He was absolutely miffed and mad that this woman would ask him questions like, haven't the forces of militant extremism, jihadism, grown stronger on your watch? Look at that with his eyes, and I'll tell you what, if it was a poker game, you could tell that man.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there. And I mean, and Obama does have this sort of MO of, when a reporter's asking him, legitimate tough questions, he'll start to sort of question their skills as a journalist. Like at one point he says, Savannah, you've asked that question a few different times, and you've worded it differently a few different times or something. So like he'll get very dismissive of them, like, these journalists, they're when they ask me tough questions, I can just brush it off as like, you're just trying to cause trouble or something. He gets that sort of very defensive attitude where he has this attitude of like, why do I even have to tolerate such questions? It's that sort of attitude that comes across.
Let me ask you this as a final thought here this morning, Kyle. Have you seen any interviews with Michelle Obama to where the interviewers did anything but softball questions? In other words, a person like Savannah Guthrie, have you seen any interviews where they literally backed Mama Obama up into a corner and seen her reaction?
Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any instances where I've seen an interview with Michelle Obama where there's been a lot of hard balls thrown at her. And to a certain degree, you could sort of understand that, with a first lady or first family. You could understand the media not necessarily hitting them as hard, but definitely under the Bush administration. I mean, there were times where Laura Bush was doing interviews, and I seem to recall one incident where they were sort of like, talking about the war in Iraq, like, do you feel guilty about the war, this, that, the other thing. So, there is a precedent where, when it was Laura Bush, there were people who, in interviews, who were not afraid to put her on the spot and, and sort of go after her based on her husband's policies. So, if that's the standard that they set then, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do an interview with Michelle Obama, then that should be fair game too. So I think that's, you look at the double standard there, where it's like, if it's a Republican First Lady, they might necessarily not have any trouble finding tough questions or hammering them on certain issues. But then with Michelle Obama, it will just tend to be softballs, and they'll treat her as completely non-political. So it's one of those things, like, either if you want to treat First Ladies as non-political, then do it across the board. But if you're going to, grill Laura Bush on certain things, then you should do it also with Michelle Obama on other things.
Let me ask you this final question. Give me a short answer on this. But when you look at the upcoming elections and you look at, excuse me, the possible nominee being Hillary Clinton, and God help us all, I hope that doesn't happen. But when you look at her and her flippant attitude with the press, like, what difference does it make, when she was interviewed at that hearing, and you look at the nominees on the Republican side, is the nominee, if it's a male for the Republicans, going to have an extra specially hard time in interviews and in confrontations with Hillary, because the media is going to basically side with Hillary because she's the poor woman?
Well, I definitely think the media is going to try and hold, Republicans to a certain standard, where it's like, if there's a debate or something and they feel like, the Republican candidate was, aggressive on something, they'll try and, if not outright say it, they may hint or suggest that, maybe it's, they're going after Hillary because she's a woman, or they were especially tough on her because she was a woman. I mean, you can definitely see the media playing that card. I don't think they'd be, afraid to do that at all.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it shakes out. But yeah, I definitely think that would be something to look for, and something for Republicans to sort of just be aware of. That the media, I mean, they certainly did it with Obama, and accusing Republicans of racism whenever they've criticized Obama in certain ways. And you did see it in 2008 too, when Hillary was in the mix that time. If Republicans said anything, they would definitely say, cry sexism sometimes.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely look for that. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
News analyst with Media Research Center, a really good guy, and I'm going to have him back. Does a great job. Kyle Drennan, God bless you, man. Thanks for being on the program.
Thanks, Ed. Good to talk to you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Oh, my, we've got to get to the weather, and the weather's brought to you this hour by Ascaro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Locally owned custom meat processor serving all of southern Idaho for over 20 years. The best of beef, pork, lamb, and processing of wild game. Oh, my, they guarantee everything they sell. Ascaro's Meats. Here now, Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb and Durant. Got rain in the forecast today for tonight, and cloudy tomorrow. Temperatures in the low 50s. Overnight lows right around the 30s, and it's going to be cloudy tomorrow, becoming partly sunny, but you're going to go right back into it. So you're going to kind of like get a break for tomorrow for the weather, but otherwise for today, got some of the wet stuff going on. No snow. Right now, you're just looking for pretty much a rain event. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Absolutely delicious. 324-7657. They offer the best of beef, pork, lamb, and wild game, guaranteeing everything they sell. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at Scarrows Meats, Jerome, 324-7657. Got a big day tomorrow, Wednesday. My goodness sakes, we're going to have Doug Johnson on from Colorado, Joel Packham with the University of Idaho Extension Service, and others. Going to be a great program. Hey, by the way, Founders Day is going on. The Founders Day celebration for Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, can you save money? They've got all-season tread tires economically priced at starting just $39.99. I'm not kidding. And you can go in and save like $50 off custom wheels when you buy a new set of 4, $20 off wheel alignment when you buy 4 new tires. Oh, my. Safe driving always with your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best of brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. You better believe it. And, of course, all the tires at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin. Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome. The Twist family and Paul, don't forget, on the 14th, they're going to have that chili cook-off. It's going to be good. John on Poline in Twin Falls and Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Center serving you. Absolutely the best. I want to remind you, I just mentioned that chili cook-off that's going to be with Max Twist and the gang over at Magic Valley Tire on Saturday, February 14th. That's Valentine's Day. Enter your chili. The judging's going to be at 10:30, and then they're going to start serving all the food from 11 to 2. It's free. It's free. Go on over. Prizes to the top 3 chilies, and if you want to enter that chili, just call Amber at 438-8444. Going to be phenomenal. And then also, towards the end of the month, the Mini-Cash Lincoln Day Banquet Luncheon will be held on Saturday, February 28th at Maury's Steakhouse in Burley. The meet and greet starts at 12 noon, lunch at 1. Going to be there. I'll be there. Deanne will be there. We're going to be there. Got to run. We're going to turn this back over to Gina and the rest of the crew over at K-Bar, 12:30 a.m. and streaming live on the internet, ZebBell.com. The way things were are the way things ought to be. God bless you and your family. We will see you tomorrow morning at 8:06 at Zeb at the Ranch.